Hello guys, welcome to this new tutorial and it is your boy Fabrice. Today we are going to design a new app and this one I just call it rent car apps. Basically what we are just going to do during this new tutorial is to try to install Firebase CLI by using Firebase CLI, basically design onboarding page and home page that are just going to look like this, something very simple, straightforward. And once you click on the card, you are going to have some kind of animation just there. And all of this, by using Firebase, Bloc, and also try to integrate openstreet maps. Very simple. And at the end of this tutorial, you are going to be able to build similar apps like this one by using also clean architecture at the end. I hope you are going to like this tutorial, and if you are ready, let's go. Okay, great. So this is new project I have just created. And before we start writing any code, we will start by initializing the Firebase project, of course. So for this, we will use Firebase CLI, and I don't know if you have already heard about Flutter file, but yeah, it is some tool pretty interesting. So in our case, this will save us from downloading and managing the configuration file of Google Firebase, So first of all, you need to write npm install Firebase tool, and this command line are going to install Firebase. You can just press on enter button after that. In my case, I have already installed it. Then we are going to write Flutter login and also click on enter button. I'm already logged, of course. And the last one are going to be Flutter. Let me just write it. Yeah, Flutter file configure. And if you have like some project of Firebase and you are just going to say yes, and he's going to erase it basically. And yeah, and with that at the end, so these are going to generate a new file for us, and this file are going just directly to show in your lib, and it will call like Firebase option. So we will import this file later. Now the next step is to to add in our pub spec YAML. We are going to add two packages, and those one are Firebase core and cloud Firebase. So let me just copy them, and yeah. So the yeah, okay, the Firebase core package, this one is the core package required for Firebase config. So, and the Cloud Firestore, this one is the package that will allow us to interact with the database, but you are going to understand later. And once this is done, you just need to run like pub-get. Yeah. And yeah, after that, after install any kind of package related to Firebase, we are going again to run, Flutter configure in order just to make sure. And yeah. Now we are going to try to set directly in our main to add some snippet of code, and I'm just going to do it. And yeah, so let's write, for example, let's initialize our Firebase. And this command that I'm currently writing is directly provided, on the documentation. So if you are a bit curious, you can check it, of course. I think current platform. Yeah. And yeah, that's normal because we need to add sync function there. And Firebase, we will definitely import from Firebase core. Yeah. And with that, if I just run my project, yeah, now we are going to have Firebase. But to make sure that we have Firebase installed, let's just delve a bit more in the code before start writing a code for the app itself. We are going to test the DB first. So what we are going to do, for example, is to add a function there on this button, and once we will click on this button, we will add, for example, a user in our database. Yeah, basically. Our Firebase console look like this, basically. I mean, there is nothing, so we just have an empty project. So what we are going to try to do is to add, some random data. I mean, we are just going to create something just for fun in order to make sure that, our DB currently work. So, if I click on this button, these are just increment the counter I got there. So I'm just going to remove this. And what I'm going to do is to initialize, for example, Firebase. Of course, we are going to change all of this and set up something more, more clear later when we are going to start. But this is just to make sure that everything's good. So let's initialize our Firebase, and yeah, great. So what we are going to do, for example, let me say user, and I'm going to create an object for the user. So let's say first name, yeah, for example, is Fabrice. Of course, I really like my name. And the last name is Sumsa. Yeah, and this is my LinkedIn name, by the way. So, I don't know if you want to add more data, you can just do it, for example. Yeah, let's say I was born at 0, And yeah, now what we are going to do is collection. The collection, or let's call it user. And we are going to add new user. And the user that we are going to add is this one that we just defined there. And then once we will create it, okay, great. So what I just write is, add user collection and add this user just create, hard coded there, and once we will have it in DB, we will just show the ID. So let's just try to click on the button. Of course, get an error. Yeah, and he say the color does not have permission to execute operation. Yeah, okay, we need to enable in our Firebase console the fact that the user can make operation. So to solve this error, we are just going to click on Firebase database just there, and if your Firebase console is in English, mine is in French, but never mind. So we are just going to click on rules and just modify the rule. For example, if you got like timestamp.date, so we are going just to set it if at true, and this is just only for testing version. So when you are going to move to the production, I mean, it's not good to do it like that. But as you can see, currently this is empty. So we just need to make like hot reload there, and we are just going to let me just move to the project. Yeah, make a hot reload. Then I'm just going to try to add new user and see if it's work. Okay, great. So now we can just see in our console that we got like user add with idea, and it show the idea. And if we came back there and we try to just refresh, okay, we can see, the same idea. Great, with the user Fabrice sumsa. Now it means that our Firebase is well configured, so we can now move to the project and delve more in the code. Perfect. Now, let's create just a new folder called presentation. And inside presentation, we are going to separate it. We are going to have, for example, pages and another one called widget, for example. So let's move, for example, onboarding page to the pages. And our main page are going to be in this folder pages. If you want, you can create subfolder to separate them. And in the widgets, we are going to have reusable like widget that we can just reuse every time we want. So now let's create a model. For example, we are going to create a model for our car, basically. So for that model, we are just going to create new folder. Let's call it data, for example. And inside data, yeah, we are going to have models. And let's just create new models, and these are going to be car models, basically. And this is very simple. We are just going to initialize a class called car. And yeah. So let's just add some information we want, for example. And of course, you can add like other parameters if you want. It's really depends what will suit you. So great. So we have our class term. You can write it if you want. And then now we are going to create how can I call it? A component that called, for example, uh, card, card, for example, and we are going to use that component in our homepage. Okay. Perfect. So we are going to display. I think we can put bold, for example. And for the size, I think 20 should be great. So so we are going to have image related to each information. So for example, for GPS, we are going to, to have car dot distance, for example. And show the kilometers. And same, for example, for if we want to have Yeah, that look nice. So once we click on one, we are going to have this. I just add some custom value, don't be data. So, but we want this to be there. So what we are going to do is just come there, and I think it is, well, let me just add some space between, yeah, this. Okay, perfect. And now we are going to work on the one of the lastest parts of UI, and these are going to be, on the maps, for example. Once we click on that button, what we want is to display the maps, basically. And for if you want later, you can add, some mappers or whatever really suit you. But yeah, let's work on the UI. Before continue, let's just add those two dependencies. This one is Flutter maps, and it are going to help us to show basically the maps, and it's based on OpenStreet and not Google Maps, for example. So it is kind of free if you want. There is no cost of using it. It is open source, and yeah, with that dependency, we are just going to display, the lat and long of like the position on some position on the maps if we want. So let's just create now a new we are going to work on new page, and yeah, let's just create this new page called, for example, maps details page. if we are going to have the effect we want. So if I just click on the card, I'm going to have some kind of, zoom in effect. Yeah, basically. Yeah, very smooth, right? Perfect. So I think you can decide to play with that animation. Sometimes it's very funny to have kind of animation like this in your app. So yeah, great. I think, yeah, I don't know how you find it, but for me, it looked pretty nice. Great. Now let's suppose that you have, like your project that you have just started working on and you want to move this one, like the current one, and try to um, increase the architecture of this one. So um, as you can see, we got like presentation and data layer, but we are going to add another one just called domain. And I think if you just watched our previous video, you can just remember that it's pretty similar to clean architecture. Yeah. So let's just create a new one called domain. And this domain layer are going to help us to make the difference between the fact that we want to separate the UI logic from just the data logic. Yeah, so inside the domain layer in like some online tutorial, like for example on YouTube or other kind of tutorial, it can be like written tutorial. We are going to have most of time people are going to separate in the domain. You are going to have like um, an entity, like entity, for example. Then let me just write it like this. I'm just going to remove this letter, but okay, great. So we are going to have like domain entities inside the domain. So repository, for example, and also uh, use cases, uh, yeah, like this inside the domain and inside the data layer that we just have there, we are going to have the model, yeah, of course, and data sources. And this one are going to help us, to fetch um, API most of time. But in our case, we are just going to use Firebase, yeah, to get response and pretty similar repository also. But this repository are going to be like interface or contract if you want for what we want our repository implementation to look like. And the entity is with the model are pretty similar. In some cases, you are going to make the difference between um, both of them. But in our case, we are just going to just, we are not going to separate them. I mean, it is optional in our case, uh, but if you want, you can just create entity, for example, because it is very small project. So yeah, and the use case uh is just like, I mean, the name is pretty straightforward. So if we have different cases, for example, um like, I don't know, get card by ID, for example, and another one called get car, sorry, not card, get car by name. So it really depends. So we can create different kind of use case that we are just going to use later in order to have, different and separated. But I have talked too much. Now let's just create those function and repose and folder, and yeah, just let's move on directly. So to add new dependencies, and this one is called get it, and we are going to use it for anything related to dependency injection. I have already made some video talked about that, so if you want to check it deeply and understand what it is and how like it's work basically, you can check those video. Yeah. Perfect. Now let's just add get it there and try to run like Bobcat. Okay, we got an error with the version. We need to use, that is based on my current Flutter version I'm just using right now. So let's just use this version. Perfect. Then what we are just going to do basically, first of all, the reason that we want to use dependency is injection is to avoid to just having to call like having to have multiple instance every time when you are just writing your code. So for example, if I just take the case of Firebase card data source, there we need to have like the instance of Firebase, and for example in the repository implementation we are going to have we are going to need the data source in parameter, and yeah, like there's a lot of file like that. So to avoid to repeat ourselves, so what we are just going to do basically is to create at the racine of lib, so we are just going to create a file called injection. Let's call it like injection container basically. And here we are just going to initialize get it by using, yeah, let's just import it instance. I forgot, my bad. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to create a function called init injection, and yeah, I just try, and if we have an error, let me catch the error first of all. So we are just going to throw the error itself. Okay, now what we are going to do basically is in our setup, like I call it yeah, like inside this function called just init injection, we are just going to use get it first of all to initialize. The first thing we need in our project right now is Firebase instance. So let's just define it. I'm just going to use lazy secretary. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to say so after that we are just going to pass the Firebase instance to our our use case and make sure that, yeah, you need repository in the parameters. And the last part. So yeah, you have just instantiate any kind, I mean, the main part of our project. So now what we are just going to do is to game directly in our uh, main page, and inside of we are just going to call the function of injection, like in the init of the function just after the initialization of the Firebase, there. So we are just going to import this one. Then for the next step, um that was just like some kind of pre-configuration, and now what we want to do is to load all the information that we have already set in our DB. Yeah, basically. Yeah. So like I was just saying, I have set some default value there in my database. I think, let me, if the connection won't, I can just show you the data, of course. Or never mind. So we have set some data there based on the structure we have already defined in our project. I mean, the same directly as the model. So we are going to have like model, distance, fuel capacity, and also price per hour. So yeah, as you can see now, so this is the same. So I have just add some value in my DB. So basically what we are just going to do is to um just go to our car list screen and try to fetch all of this data just by using Bloc and our use case. So yeah, let's just do it, and I think after that we are just going to be very happy. Yeah, let's do it. So we are just going to come here and in car list screen. So as you can see, we have like dumped data we just add before, but we are just going to uh delete all of this. Perfect. Then we are going to have like an error there. I mean, that's normal, but let's just wrap like list view builder inside block builder, and block builder is kind of a listener, and these are going to refresh, for example, our list builder based on the changes we are going to have um, when we reload the page, for example, or when the state of the block are going to change, basically. So yeah, um, let me just let's go. Okay, that was I got. Okay, let me just I know this can sound like very not too intuitive, and it's my fault, you know. Yeah, let me just. I can do it automatically just by using the my editor, but let me just write it for you. Okay, and then I'm just going to explain. Okay. Okay. So what I have just right here is based on the current state I'm going to have. If you remember, in our car state, we have like three states. You know, the first one is loading and load if everything is good, and also like the last one, car error, that just return error message if we have an error, for example. So basically here, if the current state is loading, I'm just going to show circular progress indicator, and if the state, if everything is good, let's just show the cars, you know, with the information as we used to do before. And if we have an error, but like just like display the error message. So basically this is all, but the problem with that, let me just run this. I want when we have an error, you know. And okay, and if I click on let go, yeah, so we are going to have, you know, like an error, and this is because we didn't initialize the block with block provider. What is block provider? Block provider is kind of against a widget also that are just going to tell to our um, current page, for example, or our page that, yeah, let's just call you know, the block function itself. So for that, what I'm just going to do, I was thinking maybe just to use block in this page, but if, for example, you are working on the big project, you know, it is better to initialize the block directly in the main. So yeah, let me just initialize it in the main, and then like if tomorrow, for example, you want to add new feature, I don't know, not only car, but if you have um like anything, you know. I don't just have a word, but you can just add, for example, users. If you have to manage accounts, or you are going just to initialize everything there. So this is very similar. So for that, what we are just going to do is let's just wrap material up first of all. There. Okay, perfect. Then we are just going to so we are just going to call our block and just specify that, yeah, don't forget to load our cars. So with that, let me just let me see what is wrong there. Oh, that's me, sorry, forgot. Yeah, okay, so basically what we are just going to say is, hey, Mr. Block, don't forget to call and to load directly, like, sorry, don't forget to load uh, the event load cars. And yeah, and these block are just going to say, yeah, okay, I'm just going to load event card, and he's going to call, you know, like get car. And for example, I can either to use dot call, for example, because it is syntax, but I also like to use it because it is more readable. Yeah, if I can say it like that. Let me just refresh this, and hopefully, if I click on let's go, okay, yeah. So, I forgot to add the image as parameter also in the model, but of course you can do it later if you want. So we can see that we got Toyota, Fortuner, Lexus, and if we decide to click on the one of them, we are going to have our animation that we just built together before, and if we click on it, we are going to have, maps. And yeah, I think now we are done. Hopefully, I think you learn something new, or maybe if you found, or if you have question, even if you want to add something that maybe I forgot or something that I can also improve for the next tutorial, don't forget to do it in the description. And yeah, feel free. We are here to learn together as well. Thanks, guy, for just taking your time for watching this, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.